So, I hear something's going on in the news. Um, Obviously, the news cycle of the last several days has been nothing short of remarkable. Um, and one might even go so far as to say it's riveting. Um, it's not riveting for everyone, because I think those of us um, who've seen this all before, we know the game, as it were, um, are certainly, or at least students of it. Even if we haven't seen it before, we are certainly students of it. I mean, George Wallace tried to get the popular vote via fear mongering and a con. But Trump has done it in a way that is truly remarkable. Um, One of the things that I keep hearing people say is that Trump is an idiot, he's a fool, etc. And I think that is part of his game. Okay? Trump is extraordinarily good at a couple of things. In fact, bordering on, if not completely embodying genius in this regard. Okay? One is manipulative language. Okay? He is a born salesman, but worse than that, he's also a trained salesman. That's quite literally his game. All right? Ask the people of Atlantic City, New Jersey, about his ability to sell them on a dream, only to leave them in the lurch and penniless. Okay, he's so good at it, and so good at manipulating those around him that it seems a bit like that rope a dope that Muhammad Ali used to use. You know, oh, he's on the ropes. Look out! You're gonna knock him out, and then next thing you know, you're lying on the canvas. Okay, that's what Trump does. All right. He knows he's not particularly brilliant. He knows he's not got the chops with economic theory or the philosophical knowledge of how to appeal to the masses, et cetera, et cetera. But he does know that he can use doublespeak and subtext to get his way, because that's what he's been doing his entire life. He's a salesman. That's the definition of sales, is to use language to manipulate someone into buying something. Now, in and of itself, it's not necessarily criminal. In fact, if anything, it's the backbone of the United States in terms of our economic situation. Marketing and getting people to buy things through manipulation is as American as the proverbial apple pie. So, what's dangerous about Trump is that he has an ulterior motive, but it's not what you think the ulterior motive is, all right, or what many would have you believe the ulterior motive is. We have plenty of people running around saying, I don't want this country to enact laws that protect, you know, the underprivileged and other classes, because why the fuck should I pay for it, et cetera, et cetera. Those people, victims of a con. Okay? Um, and the con has been perpetrated for many years. However, recently, the curtain is being pulled back. And we're starting to see the man behind the curtain pulling the levers. And it turns out he's incredibly wealthy. He's a billionaire. He's an amalgam of every single one of the wealthiest 1%. And he's making sure that his wealth is going to be maintained in perpetuity. Fine. Okay? Fine. We've been living with it for decades, so who cares? problem is that as that curtain was pulled back, many people started to say things like, well, wait a fucking minute. You guys bitch and moan about welfare and socialism. In the meantime, you don't pay fucking taxes, right? You leverage jobs like a big blackmail scheme. You leverage jobs like you're saying, okay, remember how I gave you all those jobs over there? Well, if you don't want anybody to find out that I fucking got a tax break because of it, then you'd better be careful because I'll reveal it to the world. People are beginning to see that. They're beginning to see that, wait a fucking minute. Why is Jeff Bezos not paying any fucking taxes? When people started pointing to that, what happened? Nothing, because Bezos was smart. See, Bezos just kind of insulated himself. No press conferences, doesn't discuss it, etc. All right? He's part of the hustle, but he doesn't want to be one of the perpetrators. He just wants to benefit from it. Okay? Even Bloomberg, who definitely benefits from this sort of economic manipulation, is remarkably silent on that particular aspect of it. Okay? Everything else he can be critical. Trump's a horrible person, et cetera, et cetera. So Trump said, well, wait a minute. People are starting to wise up here. We've got to be careful. Okay? And so the great con game that he played on the American people was a really simple one and a brilliant one. And you have to give this man credit for being the sort of evil genius in this regard. Okay? In many other ways, he's dumb as a pair of pink panties. But in this particular fashion, he's brilliant. What's his catchphrase? What was the thing he told everybody that he sold everyone on in this country? Okay? I'm going to drain the swamp. And what did he mean by that? Well, he meant, I'm going to remove all the career politicians because they're what's wrong with the country. Well, the reason he did that was not because they were going to, name a fictitious thing that he felt that they were going to do. Oh, come for their guns. That's a big one. Okay. Come for their religion, as I mentioned before. Force everybody to work in, some kind of socialist workhouse or something. Okay. That was the con. All right. The con was, I'm going to drain the swamp. But that was used to distract you from what was actually being done. Okay? What was actually being done is that Trump was filling cabinet positions with people sympathetic to him and his cause. And what is his cause? Wealth and power. Avarice. That's Trump's cause. So he filled those positions with people who, yes, were Washington outsiders, but they're certainly not business outsiders. And business, as we well know, is the partner of government in this country, as it is the partner of government everywhere. Yes, including socialist countries and communist countries. It's still the bedfellow. And so while he was telling you that everybody was coming for your guns and Christianity was going to be eradicated, he was filling these cabinet positions with those sympathetic to the cause of the poor billionaire. That's how he won. He won by telling you he was a man of the people, right? Who was only interested in preserving your ability, i.e., rank and file, middle America voter. He was only there to preserve your ability to continue to make a living and not have to live under some nightmarish socialist regime. Okay, that's great. Show me what he did that was positive. And by that I mean there were a lot of things he did that were negative, had negative results. In other words, and I don't mean they were negative in the way you're thinking. Let's get sanctions against China. Okay, so that's a negative thing to do in order to get positive gain. Okay, let's create a contract with North Korea to protect us from, all of those things were, these are the negatives. Look, we don't want the socialists to take over, and we don't want the Koreans to bomb us, and we don't want all of these things. Okay, but look at the positive things. Where did he create jobs? He didn't. He didn't. Remember, he promised that he'd bring coal back. I'm still waiting. Were there more jobs created in the coal sector? Marginally. Marginally more. But it certainly didn't come to fruition as he had portrayed it. So the positive things he did had nothing to do with the rank and file American. They had a lot to do with the wealthiest. Okay? And one of the other great con games of the American system is that we have gotten everybody to believe that we're actually beholden to these massive corporations and billionaires, because they're the ones that create the jobs, right? Without them, where would we be, Jeff? Where would we be? We would be lying in a ditch somewhere, having to eat worms. Horseshit. They give you just enough to keep your brain alive. They give you little tastes of things, like a new boat. I'm a new bass boat. Yeah, you're doing great, right? Meantime, your kid got a $40,000 student loan that's going to take him 10, 15 years to pay off. Right? You live in a $400,000 house that's going to take you 30 years to pay off. Show me you're winning. Show me you're coming out ahead. So that was the distraction, was that we're all going to be socialists. They're coming for your guns, and they're going to eradicate Christianity. In the meantime, he put into position those who better support Trump and his ilk. Okay? And now the con has been revealed because he had to take it to the limit to try to get himself reelected. Okay? He thought there were more Americans who would overlook his pussy-grabbing, making fun of disabled people, misogyny, and hatred. He thought there were more Americans who would either overlook that or revel in it, which is another thing entirely. There are plenty of people like that. He thought there were enough of them for him to get a second term and really screw us all to the wall. Because a lame duck president can do all kinds of crazy things. As we're seeing him now, pardoning all kinds of fucking people. Who knows what the hell he's doing. But a lame duck president in his second term, knowing he doesn't have anything else to lose, will do all kinds of crazy things. So he thought he could get people to go with him on this ride. As it turns out, they didn't want to. Not enough of them. Okay? And so he started really pushing the envelope, and the con became even more desperate until we reached January 6th, at which point he'd finally lost touch with reality. He was willfully denying that he wasn't, in fact, going to have that second term. He degenerated, went from his normal position of being a talented con man to a desperate despot. trying to maintain power. The incitement of the attack on the Capitol was very subtle and replete with plausible deniability. If you listen very carefully to what he said, the subtext is apparent. But it would be very difficult to convict on that information. Oh, well, I can't help that people misinterpreted what the president was saying. It's not my fault. He didn't mean that at all. The desperation is what he exhibited during that period. And when a mere 15,000 people showed up at the Capitol, and not the thronging hordes that he had hoped for, he began to see that the con had been busted. And suddenly, Americans on both sides of the aisle started looking around and going, holy shit, is that the guy I've been supporting this whole fucking time? Holy crap, wow. Turns out, he's a lunatic. Yeah, he's not a lunatic, he's a desperate man. He's a desperate con man who knows the jig is up, that he has no other way out but to hope by fomenting revolution that he can persuade enough people to go occupy the Capitol and then use a team of lawyers to manipulate people into believing a lie. And that lie, of course, is that the election was rigged. Okay, the election wasn't rigged. Okay, or I should say, no more rigged than they ever are. Okay, they're rigged because we're using massive amounts of money on advertising campaigns and marketing firms to get us to be convinced to vote for somebody. Again, it's a con game. Okay, but it isn't any more manipulative than that. Okay, not this time around, not any time in the past. Your marketing team wasn't as good as the other marketing team. That's what it comes down to. Okay? But the truth of the matter is that also was a red herring. That was also an obfuscation, a con, the distraction and the illusion. When David Copperfield makes the elephant disappear, he has you focused in a particular area while the team is moving the elephant or adjusting the mirrors or however it works. And that's what this was about, the election being flawed. That was the distraction. Pay no attention to the man behind the screen. Look at, as I pull a dove out of thin air. Look at my right hand as I raise it above my head. Don't pay attention to the left, which is in my pocket. That was the con. It was a ham-fisted con, though. It was a poorly conceived one. Conceived on the fly by a desperate man. That's why it was so preposterous. That's why we saw it and went, are you serious? And that's why so many Republicans are now going, holy shit, I've been taken in by a lunatic. Because it was just poorly conceived. Anyway, I wish everybody well. And I hope that one day we can come together as a nation and begin to realize the con that's being played upon us. Until then, I'm thankful we have enough people who can see through the nonsense to be able to at least sound an alarm from time to time. Hope everybody has a great day.